Hello, I hope that you're all doing well. It's been a while since I've done an episode of this podcast, and I apologize about that. Life just got in the way, but I'm back again and hope to do the podcast more regularly, about once a week, which was my original intention. So the title of today's podcast is Genealogy as a Source of Ideas. And just to remind you that my pen name for the fiction novels I write is Diana Dirkby, and my real name is Paula Tretkov. So I was a mathematician for many years and published a lot, and under the name Paula Tretkov. So I wanted to avoid confusion, which is why I adopted a pen name for my fiction novels. So again, that pen name is Diana Dirkby. So if it's your first time here, hello and welcome to my podcast. It's entitled Fractured Ink, Writing in Life's Chaos. It's been a while since I added a new episode to this podcast, and the main reason is that I'm writing a new novel, as I have mentioned before. My two previous novels, The Overlife, A Tale of Schizophrenia, and Three Kidnapped, Three Siblings, Three Furies, were closely based on my life experiences. I live with schizophrenia and am a survivor of abuse within my family, particularly sibling abuse. I will give links to these two novels at the end of the episode description, so you can see them on Amazon. So what has been keeping me busy is that I've started a third novel. And of course, when you start a new novel, there's always a lot to do at the beginning. And that's essentially why I dropped almost everything else. So my third novel is entitled Stay Outside, an Australian Foster story circa 1900. It's based on the family oral history passed down by my mother and aunts about my maternal grandfather, Frank Cohen, who died a few months after I was born. Frank was abandoned by both his birth parents and, as a result, placed in foster care around 1903 when he was 8 or 9 years old. His siblings were also placed in foster care at the same time. Frank's sister was 6 and his brother was 3. In his lifetime, my grandfather tracked down his siblings, but he and other family members who tried never found out what happened to Frank's parents. The abandonment by their parents severely traumatized Frank and his 2 siblings. To solve the riddle, some of my family members began exploring genealogy websites, particularly Ancestry.com, MyHeritage.com, and Genie.com. In writing this third novel, I have begun using these websites myself to gather as much factual background as possible for my current novel. It would be a spoiler alert to tell you what happened to Frank's parents, so I want to talk more generally about what these genealogy sites have contributed to my ongoing novel. Because my grandfather's parents immigrated to Ballarat, Victoria, Australia in the late 1980s or early 1890s, I am researching foster care during that period, as well as the Victorian Gold Rush, roughly 1851 to the late 1860s, and the Victorian Depression of the 1890s. Although the gold rush preceded Frank's parents' decision to immigrate to Victoria, it had created a prosperous period in Ballarat where they first settled, and that prospering period was what attracted them. They didn't know the details. They only learned them after they got there, that things were not as straightforward as they thought. The Depression in particular affected Frank's family, as well as the family into which Frank would eventually marry. And that is part of the plot of the novel. The genealogy websites have enabled me to put together a background cobweb for Frank's family and for his wife, Elizabeth. I don't have enough specific facts to write a good memoir, but I have enough to write a novel closely based on fact, just like my first two novels mentioned already. I am deriving a lot of pleasure from discovering, via genealogy sites, the outlines of stories about Frank, his wife Elizabeth, and their ancestors. To protect privacy, I am changing the names of the people in my novel and some of the dates. The further I go into my heritage, the more ideas for stories based on my ancestors accumulate, building a cobweb of reality. It's an exciting and fruitful experience in fiction writing. It's a pity my grandfather did not have access to such information before he died in 1957. His bitterness at being abandoned, in quotation marks, by his birth parents would have been eased by just knowing some more facts. There is a sense of community on the genealogy sites. My maternal grandfather's father was from a large family, and so was my maternal grandmother. Many of their descendants use these genealogy sites, so I benefit from what my relatives have already discovered. My grandfather Frank was fostered at age 8 by a kind foster mother, but an abusive foster father, which added to his trauma at being abandoned by his birth parents. While you are waiting for this novel to be published, please check out my 2 fiction novels that are already available. The Overlife, A Tale of Schizophrenia, and 3 Kidnapped, 3 Siblings, 3 Furies. I live with schizophrenia and I am a survivor of sibling abuse, as I've said already. And sibling abuse is the theme of the second novel. So that's all I really have today. I will put in links to my novels in the episode description and also my social media. So thank you for joining me in this short podcast, which is kicking it off again after a long break. I appreciate you listening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Have a great day.